Who is Jean Kayak?
Well, he's a drunk.
Done and dusted. Great. Actually, you know what? Never mind. Some of us just aren't cut out for this whole silent film thing, but I know someone who is. Anyway, welcome to Flyover Culture, your guided tour to pop culture in the Midwest. I'm Peyton Whaley. Earlier this year, if you opened up Letterboxd to review a movie, what you saw at the top might have surprised you. Actually, probably not. It was Dune, but just under that was a peculiar little film with like a butt ton of rodents. Hundreds of Beavers is basically like if you took Buster Keaton and a mascot race and put them in a blender and served it with a nice cold spotted cow. And today I am lucky enough to be talking with one of the mad geniuses behind it.
My name is Ryland Brickson Cole Tews, and I was the co-writer, producer, and fallen star of the picture.
For people who might be confused as to why the rest of us are freaking out about it, how would you describe Hundreds of Beavers?
It's a 19th century, no dialogue, slapstick, physical comedy winter epic in which my character must do battle with woodland creatures. Except in this movie, all the animals are played by humans and mascots.
Ryland co-wrote the treatment for the movie with longtime friend Mike Cheslick, who also directed and edited the movie. It's their third collaboration after the web series Lips and the film Lake Michigan Monster, which is very much in the same vein.
We just wanted to stay in this sort of lo-fi, black and white look that enabled us to make much larger worlds than we otherwise would have been able to had we shot the movie to look good. But this allowed us to make a much larger, imaginative world because of the lo-fi look. Growing up in Wisconsin, we just had this idea of like, hey, let's make the next one, wintertimey and, with snowball fights and sled chases. And let's make all the animals people in mascot costumes because it is a universal language. People wearing mascot costumes falling down is inherently funny. It doesn't matter what your background is, what your age or creed or nation or religion, that's inherently funny to humans. The movie slowly escalated into something much bigger and grander, into the epic monstrosity you see today.
Cheslick Tews and a very small crew shot the movie up in the Northwoods of Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. After doing the rounds at festivals since 2022, Beavers finally got its commercial release earlier this year.
It's been over 2 years since it premiered at Fantastic Fest in Austin. It's still doing festivals in certain parts of the world. In fact, I'm in São Paulo right now, São Paulo, Brazil, and it's going to be screening in December at a festival down here. So it's still doing festivals. It's done like over 70 festivals. But yes, that started over 2 years ago, and it was a slow build, kind of putting on sort of a roadshow performance, sort of like a vaudeville act along with the actual screenings of the movies. I would go wearing the big raccoon hat. We'd have like people dressed up in beaver costumes and stuff. And we sort of made our own Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's hard to be too exhausted or too worn out by it because, this is like every like indie filmmaker's dream to like have a small movie you make just get all this publicity from all over the place.
You and Mike wrote the treatment for the movie. How do you approach it where it's something largely with no dialogue, just gag after gag after gag? How do you approach writing something like that together?
Yeah, it took several months, especially since, again, there's like no dialogue in the movie. So how can you just always be showing versus telling? And that was always a big challenge. But honestly, it was kind of like, hey, come up with the best like 1,000 gags and then like narrow it down and then try to build on those gags and how do you make them into runners and how do you make them into callbacks and how do you call them back all in a satisfying way and how do you create this Rube Goldbergian structure. It's a little bit foggy as to how we did it, to tell you the truth. People have been giving us like all this credit, writing reviews like, oh, this is such a masterpiece. These guys are such geniuses. And it's like, no, we're not. We're actually pretty dumb. We just spent a lot of time figuring out this puzzle. And if you spend that much time figuring out a puzzle, you too can make a silly comedy like Hundreds of Beavers. It just took many months of me and Mike sitting in a room together, figuring it out with little note cards on a table, and Mike just drawing little pictures. At 5 o'clock, we'd break and drink gin and watch Kung Fu.
The creative process.
That's right.
Beavers looks like nothing else in theaters. And that's, well, because it was made super cheaply. Just about $150,000.
There were times in this movie where it was literally just Mike and I shooting the movie and nobody else. And sometimes it'd be like, oh, we have 4 people today. We have 6 people. Oh. But to like make certain props where I actually have to like interact with, you couldn't just have Mike do a VFX shot later. So then it'd be like my dad, who also wrote and performed the opening song of the movie, he made like a lot of props, like wooden props and stuff. Or like my buddy Eric made a bunch of props. Like, Dad, I need a big wooden apple. Can you make that for me? I need it in 2 days. You think I can just make that? I'm like, I know you can. You know, there was stuff like that where, yeah, like budgetary restraints was just like, you just ask your buddies or your family for favors and, you know, they got nothing better going on anyways. So, I mean, there are people in the Midwest who are in the film industry, but there aren't that many. And so sometimes you really just have to think outside the box and be like, who would join me in the North Woods of Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan in the dead of winter and put on a mascot costume and fall down in the snow and freeze their feet off for a movie? And then you think in your head and you're like, okay, yeah, you know, this buddy would do it, this buddy would do it, this buddy would do it. And then you just, you know, call them up and they say, oh yeah, for sure, I can do that weekend, you know, or oh, I can go up for a few days in January. I think that's part of the Midwest charm too, is people are very much, they're more reliable. People are more reliable and more like blue collar in the Midwest. They're just like better dudes, I think, in general. They just stop what they're doing and then they come help you with your movie. Like you think to yourself, they'll probably be busy or whatever. They're not going to want to do this. And they're like, no, absolutely. Like I check into my job as a bank teller every day. And now you're inviting me to go up to a cabin in the North Woods and drink beer and be in a silly mascot movie where I get to hang out with a bunch of my buddies. Like, hell yeah. Like, let's do it. That sounds great, you know? So it just had this sort of like community feel of like, okay, either we make this movie or we die. There's like no other option. We must make it, you know? And we were able to do it. We just, with the help of our, like I said, our Midwestern alcoholic bros.
The scope and budget of the movie didn't just influence how it looks, but how it sounds. I caught composer Chris Ryan by email to talk to him about the unconventional way he scored the movie. Early on, Mike and I decided that I would focus on character themes. The merchant, the merchant's daughter, the shop themes, the love theme, the master fur trapper, and some of the more Looney Tune type moments that benefited from a more conventional scored-to-picture approach. For the rest, they used the DeWolf Music Library, one of the earliest film music libraries in existence. I'm really happy with how it turned out, but as such, it feels only right to acknowledge the centuries worth of musicians who contributed to making this thing what it is. My job was ultimately to tie it all together and inject character into the emotional through lines of this crazy-ass story. I like to think we were successful because most people seem to have trouble telling apart where one ends and the other begins. And once it was all done, sound designer Bob Barito ran the whole thing through a tape deck to get that mid-century aesthetic they were going for. On working with Cheslick, Ryan added, "It's really fun working on Mike's projects because in the same film you can go from writing a mythic theme with religious undertones to writing a burlesque number. Every day brings a fun and refreshing challenge. He's one of those people that brings on people he trusts and lets them do their thing because there's just this inherent understanding of what we're all trying to accomplish. He's an incredibly intentional filmmaker. I mean, you kind of have to be to pull off something like Hundreds of Beavers. You got the look of the movie, the sound, the risk of bodily injury. Now you just need the right fur trapper for the job." So I do want to get into your character. In your own words, who is Jean Kayak?
Well, he's a drunk.
Done and dusted, great.
We based the character off me, just a real loser. We didn't want to like make it like Rocky 4 where you just see like a 2.5-minute montage and now he's ready to fight. He's ready for the big heavyweight fight again. We wanted to really give you a sense of like seeing him literally go every step of the way for 2 hours, him go from zero to hero. And I think that's like what's really satisfying for people. And I think it makes the payoff at the end that much more fulfilling, is because you remember where this character came from and how dumb he was, how inept he was. And then you see over the course of this long adventure, then by the end, he's like, oh, he's a little bit better. Wow. That way of storytelling has always been satisfying and always will be satisfying. So we just said, let's just go with the most satisfying story structure and just kind of pile all the silliness around it. If you're always showing versus telling, you got to make a movie that's pretty easy to follow.
Everything you're doing in this movie looks so exhausting. You know, you are doing all this physical comedy. You are at 100. You have these big costumes and these antique snowshoes that you're having to trudge through the snow in. So I want to know, like, what kind of physical preparation does that take to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go into the freezing cold and like wave my arms as hard as I can every single take? Like, how do you have to get ready for that?
I'm just used to the cold weather. I know what to expect in the elements. It just sort of made me sort of tailor-made to play the character. That's not to like boast or anything. That's just literally true, because the movie's sort of based around my physical attributes, like what I can do. And you can't really do a traditional movie shoot and expect an outside actor to come in and do all this stuff. You just can't. You can't just have an outside actor come in and just be naked in the snow and get frostbite in the snow. Like, you just can't treat an actor that way. And most actors are, well, see, I talk like I'm an actor. Not really an actor, more of a showman. There aren't many traditional actors who do the physical stuff, or are comfortable doing that. Like, they really have to like kind of train for that, and then they need like stunt doubles and stuff like that. And it's like, no, I can do all that. And I think it goes a long way when you can actually see the leading man doing all the action and the stunts and stuff like that. I think you can't train to do that box gag. Like, you just push the giant box down the hill and you hope for the best and you hope to try to make it funny. But like,
Beaver Boys are just built different.
Yes, our livers are built different.
You mentioned frostbite. Did you have any onset injuries or anything like that?
Due to the giant size of the hat, I've suffered permanent spinal damage.
Are you?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, I got some frostbite on my foot. I didn't lose any digits though. I didn't have to like cut off my toes or anything.
That's good.
So that's good. I did have like a sort of thing in my neck, like a pinched nerve, and I slightly tore my meniscus in my knee. But that's showbiz, baby.
By the movie's own nature, no dialogue, plenty of green screen, there are some big challenges to tackle as an actor. How do you get in the headspace to sort of like go all out, give it all your energy in a space where you're sort of like picturing that in your mind? Like, the space hasn't really even been built yet at the time you're shooting it.
A lot of that was, Mike's direction of telling me, okay, this is right in front of you, this is off to your left, pretend you're looking at this thing, and you just kind of do your best, especially because, like the log flume chase, that was shot in my old apartment. We just hung up green everywhere, and it was so small. It was just Mike and the cinematographer Quinn Hester, myself, and then our buddy Jerry would come by and play the beaver. And Mike had everything very carefully storyboarded, so you could see, like, okay, he'd point to a storyboard image and it'd be like, okay, so I'm surfing on a log being chased by some other beaver. Okay, gotcha. So when I look behind, I'm looking at the beavers chasing me, and I'm pedaling forward because I want to get away from the beaver. It's like you sort of imagine it in your head a little bit. But that's kind of the best you can do. Every day after shooting, Mike would take the footage from that day and bring it into his computer on his like Mac and start editing. And then he'd show us like, see, this is why we shot that thing today. Do you get it now? And then you'd be like, oh, okay, I got it. I see what you're saying. I guess I'll continue to shoot this movie for another day.
4 years, countless favors, and just a couple cases of frostbite later, and hundreds of beavers is out in the wild. So, what's next for our beloved Beaver Boys? With Beavers getting its commercial release this year, does that make it eligible for awards consideration, all that kind of stuff?
Yes. I don't know if we'll get nominated for an Oscar. I think if nothing else, I think the opening song should get nominated. Because I'm looking around at all these other movies. Now, see, I understand there are better actors than me. First of all, like I said, I'm not an actor. I'm a showman, so I shouldn't even be nominated as a best actor. But I'm looking around at these other movies, and I don't see, what are the other movies with, best original songs?
It's going to be something that a pop star who had a free afternoon came in, just kind of cranked out on the keyboard, and all of a sudden you got, I don't know, Becky G singing around Flamin' Hot Cheetos. My support is for the Applejack song.
Best visual effects, because Mike did all the visual effects, 1,500 effect shots. And people will come up to Mike and they'll say, I love how you made the effects look bad on purpose. And Mike just is thinking to himself, I tried my absolute hardest. I would love to crash the Oscars with some beavers. I would love to wear the raccoon hat to the Oscars.
What is next for you? Is it going to be another collaboration with Mike? Is it going to be something in a different wheelhouse? What are you working on?
We can't really say anything right now. But yeah, Mike and I, we have actually a couple movies that are in the works. One of which is another collaboration between Mike and I. And then I also have another film that I'm doing as well. So, they're not going to be coming out next year, but hopefully in a couple of years. Let it be known that they will be some more fun action adventure comedies. So we aren't going to be switching to wildlife documentaries anytime soon. Although some people might argue that Hundreds of Beavers is a sort of wildlife documentary.
If you missed Beaver Fever the first time around, or you just want to watch it again, the movie is on streaming. But I cannot recommend enough seeing it in a packed theater. And if you're watching this video around when we posted it, you're in luck.
Beaver is going to be back in a bunch of theaters in the US and Canada in the first week and a half of December. Check your local listings. Check hundredsofbeavers.com. We also have our big special edition Blu-ray coming out in December as well. It's got more special features than a Lord of the Rings box set, including 3 commentaries, one sober, one drunk, one wasted. There's 9 Beaver Boys on these commentaries. Be on the lookout for the Blu-ray. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies.
All that info is, of course, down in the description. A tip of the old raccoon hat to Ryland and Chris for making this video happen. And, as always, please don't get frostbite in a mascot costume. What is your beard care routine?
Once in a while, I'll wash it with whatever soap I find in the shower. I'll trim it sometimes to make it look semi-presentable. And that's about it. Growing my beard is quite literally the least I can do.